What's your most awkward? Sorry, but I don't work here. Experience? I was at a local thrift store, looking at old typewriters with my sister. They were very, very cheap, and she's a writer, so I was buying her one. There was a fellow there who heard me ask out loud a question about how it works. He was a nice old guy who came over and showed me the inner workings of the unit for a solid 50-60 minutes. He was very passionate about typewriters and had expert-level knowledge. After an hour of him showing me everything you could imagine with a typewriter and how they work, I asked a question about price. He responds with, "Well, I don't know that because I don't work here. I just like typewriters." Yeah, no thrift store worker has expert-level knowledge on the stuff they're selling. Not unless it's more of an antique shop or a specialty store. His was probably lonely. There is an older gentleman who used to be a professional photographer, but had to retire due to being constrained to a wheelchair. He hangs around our camera displays a few hours every week and talks to people about cameras. He's knowledgeable and so enthusiastic that no one has complained since he started doing it over a year ago. I used to work in a bar that was about a 5-minute walk from Tesco, a grocery store. Every Saturday afternoon the bar would hit a lull between 4 and 5, so I'd get sent to Tesco to pick up fruit, mint, and juice for the night. And seemingly every Saturday, some customer in Tesco would come up to me as mistaking me for staff there. My work uniform didn't even look similar to the Tesco uniform. I never understood it. The best case of mistaking me for somebody who worked in Tesco was this. A woman came up to me, while I had my hands full of cartons of juice. She started complaining about shitty service and unhelpful staff. I tried telling her that I didn't work there, but she kept cutting me off. Eventually she demanded to speak to my manager. I responded with, "Oh, you'll have to go to the bar around the corner to speak to the manager, that's where she is." The woman looked shocked for a second but then said, "Oh well, that explains why this place is run like a poor excuse for a circus. Your manager is off in a bar, drinking on the job. I should have guessed it." To which I responded, "No, I work in that bar and was sent here for stock. If you want to speak to my manager, you can go to my workplace and talk to her." She realized immediately the mistake she had made and became much nicer and very apologetic to me. I was at a local computer and game store, and this elderly gentleman asked me where they put the controllers for PS3. I told him, "Sorry, I don't work here, so I don't really know." He goes, "Seriously, why do you even work here if you don't know where anything is, dumbass?" Should have said, "I'm surprised you managed to get out of bed today, you old fuck," and tickled his love handles while giggling. If he'd done that, he probably would have been fired. When I was a teenager, I worked in Virgin Records, renamed to Virgin Megastores in the UK now. I had finished my shift and I'd had a pretty shitty day. I was browsing to buy a couple of CDs to cheer myself up. A customer walked up to me and started asking questions. I dealt with customers all day, so I breezily replied, "Sorry, I don't work here." Customer responds, "But you're wearing a Virgin uniform." There was a super awkward pause during which I could easily have said I'm off duty and about to leave and recovered, but in panic said, "I'd just like to wear it," and walked out of the store. You know those moments when years later you recall an awkward encounter and just shudder? That's my scumbag brain's go-to moment. My ex-girlfriend worked in sales, and she worked all the time, so for a while there her brain was just wired for it. We were in a store on Sunset Boulevard. We live in LA. And she's got her head buried in the racks of clothes, not really paying attention to anything. Next thing you know, Josh Groban walks in, but she doesn't notice because she's too busy rooting around. Eventually they're standing pretty close together when she finally looks up and they make eye contact. She's so surprised to see Josh Groban that her brain immediately kicks into instinctual mode and she asks him, "Hi, can I help you with anything?" "Oh, no thanks, I'm just looking," Josh Groban tells her. Immediately, she realizes what she's done and then tries to correct it by freezing completely still for what seems like forever and then telling him, "I'm sorry, I don't actually work here." Josh Groban, okay. It was one of the most amazing, awkward exchanges I've ever witnessed. So I'm trying on a pair of jeans at Hollister, and it's a big sale, so it's a crowded, smelly, teenage angst mess in the place. I exit the changing room and there's a ton of people waiting. And it's not a big changing room, so it's super crowded. Worker is MIA, so I go over to the shelf thing they put the clothes on you don't want, and it's a mess. The thing was stacked high with clothes, shit was falling off onto the floor and everywhere, and I feel bad so I attempt tidy a bit but it's too far gone and not my job. So I just told the jeans K don't want and go to leave the dressing room when a grade 8 dish bag mother appears with her mini-me carrying 10 plus jeans. This woman starts going on and on about how her daughter isn't a 2 or a 4, and why don't they make a size 3, and how come these jeans are ripped. This woman isn't giving me a chance to breathe, but I clearly know she has mistaken me for an employee. I am a young tan somewhat surfer. Why? I just let keeping her rant, not really listening to her, waiting to explain myself, when she starts picking me apart. She starts saying they should hire workers who have brains that know how to actually help customers and don't just stand there to look pretty. She finally gives me a chance to speak, but instead of telling her I don't work there, I pretended I was super offended and said, I quit. Her daughter looked all embarrassed and people were watching and you could tell she looked kind of bad. So she started to apologize and I was just like, no really, I quit, you can work here and you won't have to worry about looking pretty. And I just walked away. I was on my break and decided to walk down the mall to the Bon. I was wandering around seeing what the sales were, when I was approached by one of those high and mighty, rich bitches. She asked where something was, and I told her I did not work there. She got all huffy and stormed away. I went about my browsing. A few minutes later here she comes again, this time with an actual store employee in tow saying, that's her. That's the one that won't help me. The employee, actually a department manager, asked me why I was out of my department, and that I knew better that to not help a customer while approached. She then asked what department I was from. Finally a chance to speak. I replied, I sell shoes, where I was promptly interrupted, and give another tongue lashing, all the while rich bitch is sitting there with a smirk on her face. Manager told me to get to the office and wait for her. I turned on my heel and walked away towards the exit doors instead. She catches up to me and loudly demands to know if I wanted fired, or if I was going to get to the office. I responded, I am going to my office. She said there were no offices in that direction and demanded I turn in my name tag and gather my things. I took my name badge off, handed it to while saying, I don't think my district manager is going to like you firing his top-selling store manager from Kinney Shoes. She looked down at the name badge, and back up to me white as a sheet. Manager hands my badge back, mumbled an apology, and scurried away with her embarrassment, and rich bitch. There is a lesson in this. Take your name badge off when you are on break and go to other stores. A couple weeks ago I was at my local PetSmart chatting with the one guy there who really knows his stuff. I have a good deal of experience with aquariums, but I like to run my ideas by other people before I try them out. We are talking, but a customer comes up so he breaks off to assist them. As I am standing there looking at the fish, an old woman walks up to me and asks about what kind of bowl and food she should get for the goldfish her grandson brought home from the fair. I start to tell her I don't work there, but as I glance around, the guy I was talking to and the other employee were still busy. So it went kinda like this. I don't really. You know, the thing is, goldfish actually need a fairly large aquarium, so you should either get at least a 30-gallon setup with this filter and such, or if you don't want to invest that much, I'm sure the store would be more than happy to take it off your hands. And if you'd like a more manageable fish, I would recommend a betta. Now here are some good setups for them, yada yada yada. I finish helping the old woman, and immediately another customer. At this point I notice there is a mini rush as it is around 5-ish and people are stopping by after work, comes up to me and asks a question about what fish would work well in her son's guppy tank. At this point I'm pretty much committed and I decide to help her too. Eventually, after about 25 minutes and several more customers, the crowd thins out and I go back to my conversation with the employee. I ended up helping PetSmart sell several fish and one aquarium that day. I was in the Grand Bazaar in Istanbul, a very busy store. I asked the shop owner something, and he just said, "Give me a plastic bag," which I did. I understand Turkish. Then I helped him for a couple of minutes, putting things in bags. I was just trying to help since he was really stressful. He apologized so many times when he realized I wasn't one of his employees, and gave me a discount. I was in Normandy, France at one of the landing beaches, and some American tourists thought I was a tour guide. Me, being the kind of person I am, went along with it and started teaching them about the beach's history, and telling them good places to visit. I had only been there for an hour, but I did know the history rather well. I continued talking them through the landing and taking questions, then the tour guide turned up. I just laughed and walked away. They thanked me in a confused manner. I don't think it dawned on them at that precise moment that I was a random man and not a tour guide. Do you have a similar story? Leave a comment and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one.